Hey guys, welcome to South Florida. Hope everyone's having a great week so far and that we're almost done. Woo, crazy here. Um, Today I am so honored and excited to talk about a brand new product we are launching at Amy Howard and Home. Um, My name is Lyonella Cook, and I'm with Sandpaper and Wax Design, but I am a content creator for Amy Howard. I have the honor to introduce some really cool new products that we are launching. So we have some silicone. And we're also launching the new Glacier Resins, new and improved, and they are UV resistant, non-yellowing, really cool stuff. So lots to get to today, lots of ideas and things that you can do with this, especially that silicone. Really cool. I'm into a lot of obviously sculpture and casting. Hey Leslie, and I'm always looking for an awesome product. The problem that I run into with a lot of these silicones that are currently on the market, there's gas bubbles. So the molds themselves tend to get pockets. And I don't own a pressure pot, and I'm not familiar with degassing. So I always kind of struggle with the silicone. But this stuff is pretty darn cool. I got to play with it and I made some of my own molds and they're really neat and they're so much stronger than some of the stuff I've made before. So this is great when I have to cast really big objects. I like to cast capitals and you name it. So some big, heavy, ornate pieces, and a lot of the molds that I make are so flimsy and just don't hold up to maybe one mold. So I actually made 4 of these so far. I casted this glass candle and casted it into this piece here. Um, it's so easy to mix. It's a 1-to-1 mix, and it says the directions say to mix for 2 minutes. I would recommend 3 just to make sure everything is super consistent. And then you could use different kinds of stuff to hold your pieces, like an old container. That way, when you cut through to get to your piece, that this is just disregarded. If you want to make multiple pieces and you want a really good, say you're making capitals or pillars, you can make melamine board uh, boxes for the silicone, and that's really good too. Now remember, as the bigger you get, the more time, every time your mold is getting a little bit bigger, you need more cure time. So make sure that you are allowing enough time for your molds to cure. I would recommend 24 hours, especially the bigger they get. I had a little slip up with one, but there is a way to repair. So it's not a slip up. This is called a plunge cut. So you can open up your mold to access your casting. And then when you go to reuse this piece, you use rubber bands, multiple, especially if it's a really big mold. You want to make sure you're just closing it up and then putting it back into that mold. That way it also adds a little bit of pressure. And so what I did with these, I made, so I can show you all at once. I just did a bunch of different candlesticks. And what I love about this idea, when I was in, where was it? Lake Como, um, they had these Italian designers that were filling all different shapes, like swans and especially swans because it's special for Lake Como, but they were filling it with the rocks, the pebbles from Lake Como itself. So how cute would this be to do an anniversary present or a gift if you go on a trip with your loved one or whomever, and then cherish something like that and something usable. I thought that was really sweet. And so that was casted from a wooden piece. Now, I'm going to go ahead and explain to you what I did wrong and what you can do to make sure it doesn't happen to you too. Um, you can cast glass, you can cast metal, uh, you could do doorknobs just like this, and I'm going to show you how to do that real quick, or draw pulls. But the thing is, you need to make sure that the surface is completely smooth. If the surface is, you can cast wood, no problem. And what I would recommend is taking Amy's product. You see how shiny that is? Well, that is because I ended up doing a clear coat with her new resin. And it works perfectly for doing a surface cast. So it doesn't just have to be a pour. You can also surface do a clear coat epoxy on it as well. So by doing that, you're closing out all the pores in the wood. If you do not do that, like I learned from me, and then I had to make a repair in my mold, you'll see in this particular part, if you do not clear coat that, do you see the little pinholes? Well, that is from the wood absorbing, so creating air pockets. So by clear coating your piece of wood, and I do recommend doing it in resin, that way you don't end up with a big mess. But you can also do it with a urethane or, but yeah, clear coating, sealing out the pores so it's not absorbed, and then you have pinholes in your mold. So how to repair the pinhole in your mold, I will go ahead and show you, and we're going to go ahead and pour a mold and play with this. It's a lot of fun. Today, 10% off. It's a brand new product, so 10% off. That's really awesome. So go ahead, like, comment, share, and then we're going to get to work here, guys. Also, you can do the traditional flat little molds with this resin too. And, you know, this is still on its last leg of curing, but I made a trivet for the kitchen. How cute is that too? So and we'll talk about that resin craft in a second, but let's start with that silicone. Very sticky, guys. Make sure you're wearing gloves. I also recommend you're wearing a respirator. I'm not going to wear one for right now because I want you to hear me. And again, when you use your silicone, you want a 1-to-1 ratio. Okay. So if you don't have a scale, that's okay. But what you'll do is measure out separately how much you're going to use. And volume is really an important thing. So what we are going to pour, we're going to do a repair on the mold, and I'm going to show you guys how to do a little knob, just a quick little knob if you wanted something quick. But there's also a way to do it where you can make a permanent cast too, and it'll even do the threads. So we're going to go ahead here. Woo. Oh, get that out of the way. So this is important. Keep the seals for your silicone. You see like that? Go ahead and keep that in there. It will last a lot longer. All right. And now here is our B. And let's go ahead and mark where we need it because we really want to stay right about, yeah, right about there. So we're going to pour to there. Now you can color your mold if you prefer a colored mold. If you do, put it in B, not in the A before mixing. Some people don't like to have a clear mold. You can use the Pigments by Amy Howard to go ahead and do that. So we're going to put that all together. And again, here we are stirring for approximately about 2 to 3 minutes on the safe side, especially if they're bigger molds. I'd say at least 3 minutes. For smaller molds, you know, we don't have to, we can, but go ahead and we'll set our timer. We're at 9:39 and we got a time going. So while we do that, I'll chat with you. So we're starting and we don't waste time. What else should we talk about? Oh, so when you do your molds and you're going to cast into something that is not a silicone mold necessarily, or like a to capture, if it's not plastic, if it's a cardboard piece like that, you can use a mold releasing agent, spraying it into it, or you can also use Vaseline. So whatever you have available. The green tape that I'm using, I know some of you guys are curious about this. This is a resin tape. Also something I learned, but we'll get to this part in a second, is really funny, and it's science-based, which I love. So we'll talk about that too. So we're mixing up this resin. We got about 30 seconds more, or this is not resin, I'm sorry, silicone. Yeah, this stuff's so much fun to play with. You can, and I believe, I want to test it out. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm pretty sure you could also do a surface silicone with this as brushing on because of the consistency, which is fantastic, because there's a lot of times where I just need a surface cast, especially for appliques, and I don't necessarily need the depth of something. So these are really cool too. All right, where are we at time-wise? Okay, we're gonna go ahead and give this a go. I'm gonna turn you back down so we can, and so you can see what that looks like. Very nice. Fully mixed. And what I love about this, again, is we don't have to degas. There's no pressure pots. We'll give it a couple taps as we go. So here I'm just using a cardboard construction mailer. I cut it. And what I did on the bottom side is I added that tape to complete the barrier. Now you can do a mold release, which are super cheap. They're in your little box store, craft store. Or you can also use Vaseline. And we'll use Vaseline on the other one. So just spray that in. And then what we're going to cast, the mold we're going to make here is this knob. Say we had one knob left and we're like, oh my goodness, I don't want to go buy this or go find it or go hunt it down on eBay. But so what I want you to focus on, if and make sure the surface is clean, that it is a shinier finish, that it's sealed, and we're not going to have any issues. So give it a clean. You can clean it with acetone, or you can clean it. I used Clorox clean wipes and they worked before, and they're missing from my table now. But so what you're going to do is you're going to put that into your piece. Also, do spray your piece with mold release or put Vaseline on it. Make sure it's completely coated. We don't want anything sticking. And then create, so I'll show you something too. I really wanted to show you this, but we just kind of ran out of time, guys. Let's see if we can clip it. Clip. And then set up. This is hard to do with gloves on. Maybe take off the gloves to do this part. I have to balance it. Okay, we don't want it moving. Ah! Ah, sorry. I'm struggling with that. Let's see. Maybe this one will work better. Oof. It's so slippery now that I have the mold release on it. Ah, and it's just sliding everywhere. Okay. There. Don't move. Don't breathe. I'm joking. Okay. Actually, I'm going to use that piece to balance it. All right. So we've got our silicone all poured, all ready to go. And so it doesn't matter if it's not completely straight, as long as we're not touching the sides. Can you see that we're not touching the sides inside the actual uh, hold, like the piece that's going to hold. Ooh, almost lost you. So here we go. We're going to pour it in just nice and slow, starting over the surface. And you're going to fill that in. Now, I do have a way to how you build one that you has the threads, and it's like this whole complete setup that you could make multiple upon multiple again and again. And it's a really cool system. But I just didn't have enough time today. Maybe we'll do another one if you guys are interested. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and let that set. This, guys, has to set for at least, and this size, perhaps 3 hours. I would say I always like to err on the side of caution, and I'm going to say 6 to 9. So what you see happening, it wasn't doing that before, but do you see the air bubbles are popping? I don't know if we can get any closer so you can really see what's happening. And so we have a little popping, little snapping, and that is the gas being released. A lot of other molds, the gas bubbles just stay there, and then it's now embedded in part of your mold. What you are going to do is give that a little tap to make sure everything has settled. So we're just going to kind of give it a little, just a little tap. I don't want that to fall. All right, and now go ahead and you're going to just let that cure. So the PVC, unfortunately, I'm using it as a step. You could do it with PVC, use your tape, put that Vaseline in the center, same thing again. Now, there is a 2-part mold that you can do with the cardboard and that PVC, and it sits into each other, and you make a mold that way. Next time, I promise, I will teach you that. All right, so we're moving on. We're going to talk about repairing molds. Again, if you did something goofy, or if you had high humidity and the mold was not wanting to behave for you, there is a way to make a repair. Now you take your already poured epoxy resin, or not epoxy resin, the silicone, and you will brush on where the mistakes are. I have cleaned this. So if you hadn't cleaned it yet, you can wipe it down with acetone and then make this repair. So you're just brushing in and allow that to, all those little pinholes, say goodbye. Now, as it dries, you want to make sure you keep it on its side. And there we go. We're just making all the repair. And now you have repaired your mole. Super, super easy. It's fantastic. Fixed. Okay. So now I'm going to let that sit. We're going to move on into the resin casting. If you guys have questions, keep going, keep ask me, and I promise I will get to you. Oh, lots to talk about. Sorry. Okay, so here we have we got our A and we have our B. And so again, it's that 1-to-1 ratio. What is different about this one? It's not yellow. I've had some that turn into pee-pee colored water, but this one stays clear and it's awesome. And the dry time on it is really fantastic. So yeah, okay, we got A. We're gonna see how much we need for A. I am gonna go ahead and pour the small candle. So we're gonna use about there. Let me turn you down so you can see what I'm doing. So here we are, we're pouring A, and now we're about to pour B. And so here is our B. Again, if you don't have a scale, if you have a scale, do use the scale by all means. But if you don't, that's okay too. Just make sure. Are we even? Yes, we're even. Okay. Yep. Good, good. All right, here we go. We're going to pour that in. Again, we are mixing for about, for this one, I'd say about 3 minutes. I'm a 3-minute, I stand by that 3 minutes. Same thing with Lux Lacquer. I like that 3-minute rule. For deep coat epoxies, I believe that should be around 5 minutes, but okay. Very messy. When you go to clean your surfaces, you can use acetone, you can use denatured alcohol um, on your hands. Try not to use any of that stuff. All right, so we're here. We're going to be here for 3 minutes. I'm going to chat to you about other things that you need to know. And that's really important when you're doing a cast, an actual mold. Yeah, because oh, and that's okay, good. I'm all over the place today. There's so much to talk about. So when you're doing your mold, and if you're using a container like this and you're setting it into the mold this way with the silicone. Sorry, I didn't bring that up earlier. This is really important, guys. When you're doing your silicone and say you are going to submerge this wooden piece, guess what's lighter? What has a lighter mass? Wood. Over the viscosity, over the fluid, it's going to float. So it's really important that you think about what object you are setting into all of that silicone into that mold, or what you've already placed in there, and then you start pouring all the silicone in, and all of a sudden it just starts floating to the top. So securing your object to the bottom of your mold is essential. And sometimes you can use that resin tape, but sometimes you're going to need to, ahead of time, use Tripe Bond, glue it to the bottom, make sure there is no surfactant or any kind of excess coming out of that. If you do not secure your object, you can end up floating, it could cast sideways. Um, yeah, you can run into all kinds of issues. So trying to secure your object to the bottom, really, really important. Certain objects float, even glass can float if it's lighter than the fluid by volume. So something to think about. So think in advance before you start pouring. I learned the hard way. So okay, what time are we on? We got 1 more minute left. Okay, what else should we know? Any questions? Let me see. Yes, part A and part B. Yes, is someone commenting that? Yes, they should be mixed together. What I was doing was pouring them out to make sure I had the same equal amount because they're 1-to-1 ratio. So you can run into problems if you do not have the same ratio. You'll have sticky resin. It won't cure correctly. It will be fragile. It'll be tacky for a very long time, maybe forever. So making sure that you have all the same measurements is really, really important. Yeah, and then we'll talk about bubbles and all that fun stuff too. All right. What time do we have? We got 10 seconds left. Any questions? Let me see. Anybody? My hands. Ah, let's see. What is she mixing now? Yeah, resin. Yeah, we just did the silicone and now we're doing the resin and we're going to use our mold. Okay, I'm going to let that sit for a second. We're going to use the mold I made and then we are going to put, and the reason I'm using a mold releasing agent, do you see how deep that is? And so when I go to pull this object out, it's going to want to stay. And that's also why we do plunge cuts to really open up your mold too. Some people, they like to go ahead and completely sever it, but I didn't make a mold case for it, so I don't want to completely sever it. And so I'd rather just make plunge cuts to go ahead and be able to pull it out. So just spraying in the bottom. All right. So I know we have a little bit of bubbles here. What you can do is allow this to sit for a little bit longer and it will actually dissipate. So this resin is impressive in that regard. You can also do a warm bath to start warming it, and that will start to eliminate the bubbles. If it's a flat pour, you guys know to use that hair dryer to eliminate any bubbles. But, it's really, we don't want to whip the resin. We want to mix it. We want to scrape the sides as you're doing it. and just slowly, it's a more of a slow mix as opposed to, making gesso or making milk paint. We're looking for a really nice, fully integrating both products and eliminating the bubbles. So what I found is that actually, while it sat, these bubbles actually started to dissipate, which was pretty wild. You'll see them start to rise up. What you can also do is alcohol. It has to be greater than 90% isopropyl alcohol, which will eliminate those bubbles as well. So we are going to, typically I would heat this. I usually have a little Bunsen burner next to me with a little pot on it, and I always heat my resin. Just give it a nice little bath. Let it sit for a couple of minutes, and it really will eliminate all those bubbles. But we are live, and I don't have that convenience, so I am just going to go ahead and pour for you. So make sure you're over a protected surface. I'm going to turn you down. I can see you. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and slowly start to pour. Now, if you want to put shells or if you want to put objects into your resin, what I recommend, especially something that is like a shell specifically, you will take your little shells and any objects that you are going to embed, and you are going to completely submerge them. This will also help eliminate bubbles by doing that. And then slowly embedding into. So, you could use tweezers, especially if you're having to get very specific into there, or you can use sticks. You can use a dentist pick if you like. So that when there's cavities on a surface, you want to make sure that it is completely covered, because it will also affect your cure time when it comes to your resin. So something like this, completely, you want to submerge that completely into the resin before you place it. Now you can also, you don't have to do a complete cast all at once if you want different colors or if you want to add different layers. So you would have to allow each layer to slowly dry and then add, if you wanted to add pigments, which we will do in a second. And so this, see how an air bubble just rose out from the inside of that shell? That's what we want to avoid. All right, here we go. I'm going to put it in to our candle, and then we'll continue with our pour. Now, say you wanted to make the base a different color. You would take your alcohol inks, and you don't want to go beyond a 10% ratio because you start to chemically change your mixture, and that will aggravate your set time. So let's go with, I love gold. Shall we do gold? Yay. This alcohol ink set has black, brown, and gold. All my favorite colors. Okay. I think that will be adequate. Then we'll stir it up. That, for some reason, is not dark enough. Let's go with maybe the white will be more opaque. That was really light. Make sure you really shake these up, because what happens if you can, I can see it, but I don't know if you can. The pigment in these bottles will start to settle. Yeah, you can see it on the gold. If you don't really shake these up really well, then you will end up with more of the alcohol in your mix. All right. Okay. And so if you wanted to add color, you can stir that, or you can place it and then use that hair dryer. Then we're just going to add it into the top. Now, if you want a more striated look, wait for it to come. You can wait up to, I believe, 20 minutes. By then, it starts to get pretty darn tacky, and you might run into adhesion issues. So because we have plunge cuts, I can't turn it necessarily, but because we're not banded yet, and I should have banded it, do you see we're starting to have some leaking? So you're going to go ahead and take those rubber bands, if you don't have the original mold for it, if you had to destroy it while removing it, and you're going to place rubber bands around to add tension to the sides, and that way you don't have resin loss. Okay. Lovely. Okay. So that's pretty much for a clear piece. Let's talk about if we what else? I mean, with these molds, you can also cast the Echo powder, which is fantastic too. That would be great for all the appliques or little figurines, and this stuff is fantastic. You could, and these are long-lasting molds, guys. These will last. Just take really good care of them. Make sure you wipe them out, and then store them properly so they don't get dried out. I think that's all. I know I'm running over time. Please, if you guys have any more questions, the resin cure time. I am a stickler, an absolute stickler for cure time, 24 hours, one whole day, 24 hours, always, period, the end. And if it's still tacky, go ahead and wait a little bit longer. Remember, the deeper you pour, I don't go beyond 2 inches with this as far as a complete volume depth. If it's 2 inches and it's a gradual thing, that's fine. It's still less surface area. But when we're talking about volume, a large volume at 2 inches, don't go beyond that. And you want to slowly build as each level starts to dry. So really important dry times. If you're adding to, say I wanted to add another layer or a color to this, we're going to use sandpaper. You want to start with 200, and then you're going to graduate up to about 800. And then you're going to take acetone, wipe that all down, tack cloth it down, acetone again. And now you can add your next level of resin, and you'll have a full, perfect, cohesive piece. Oh, we're starting to dry. Yay. And I'll show you that in the before and after in Amy Howard's group. So pay attention to your dry times. Don't rush anything. Think about where you're placing your object into your molds. What are you going to use for a mold? Is it plastic? And it doesn't really need a mold release. But if it's cardboard, you will need a mold release. If it's wood, you need to seal your wood, or you need to add a mold release onto that, like a board, if you're going to create a box for it. So just think about what you're doing, what are you placing in the resin? What colors are you using? So if you have any questions, remember, we can use this with the Venetian plaster. You can use it with the Echo powder. You can use it with, obviously, the resin. The possibilities are endless. You can make knobs, you can make statues, you can make decorations. So I hope you have a fun time creating with this really cool new product. It's absolutely user-friendly. So take care, guys. Happy weekend.